sodium bicarbonate. This results in formation of H2CO3, which will later dissociate to form H2O plus carbon dioxide and NaCl. So this is kind of neutralizing your acid. And this H2CO3, this can also combine with bases. So if you have a strong base like NaOH, this will combine with this, and again, it'll give rise to H2O and NaHCO3. So I told you that there are two basic mechanisms. One is the renal mechanism and the other is the respiratory mechanism, which are trying to regulate the pH in the body. So if the PCO2, it increases, this results in a situation of acidosis, because CO2 will combine with water. This will give rise to carbonic acid. And this carbonic acid can liberate hydrogen ions. So if anybody has any doubts, you can please put it on chat and I'll take up your queries. Okay. So respiratory acidosis means that there will be an increase in partial pressure in PCO2. So that will result in acidosis. And what happens in alkalosis? Somebody would like to write on chat what will happen in alkalosis. Let's not make it a single way discussion. Let's have a double way discussion, so that what will happen in alkalosis? Obviously, the PCO2 will be less, because if acidosis is associated with increased PCO2, this will be associated with reduced PCO2. And if the PCO2 is reduced, that means less of carbonic acid is formed and less of H ions are there. And as a result, there will be a state of alkalosis. So what will be the pH in this case? In acidosis, what will be the pH? What will be the pH in case of what will be the pH in case of respiratory acidosis? It will be less than 7.36. Okay, and what will happen in case of alkalosis? What will be the pH? It will be more than 7.44. Okay, so these are the two mechanisms. Now, suppose there's a respiratory acidosis, then there are renal compensatory mechanisms will come into place, and they will try to normalize the pH. Respiratory alkalosis, also the renal compensatory mechanisms, they will come into picture and they will try to bring the pH to normal. Now, renal mechanism, it basically works by bicarbonate ions. So if there is an excessive bicarbonate ions, that will result in metabolic alkalosis. And if there is less of bicarbonate ion, that will be metabolic acidosis. Again, acidosis less, and this is more. And again, if it is alkalosis, that means the pH is more than 7.44, and acidosis, that means pH is less than 7.36. So now you can see this is something which I summarized in my last slide, that normal the pH is 7.36 to 7.44, and normal PCO2. So remember that PCO2 is between 35 to 45 millimeters of mercury. This is something which you need to remember. So if it is a state of acidosis, you will have PCO2 which is on a higher range. So obviously it'll be greater than 45. And if it is respiratory alkalosis, the PCO2 levels will be low. So it'll be less than 35. Because if it is respiratory acidosis, it is increased PCO2. And in case of respiratory alkalosis, it is decrease in PCO2. And if it is metabolic acidosis, the PCO2 levels, they remain same. They remain normal, in the normal range. So this is normal range. But if it is metabolic acidosis, the pH will be less than 7.36. And this is primarily because the bicarbonate levels will be on the lower side. And how much is the normal bicarbonate level? It varies between 22 to 26 milliequivalents per liter. That is normal bicarbonate levels which are there in the body. So this bicarbonate level will come down in case of metabolic acidosis, and it'll be probably less than 22 milliequivalents per liter. And in case of metabolic alkalosis, the pH is greater than 7.44. The carbon dioxide levels, the PCO2 is within the normal range, but the bicarb levels will be on the higher side. And in this case, the bicarb levels will be how much? It will be more than 26 milliequivalents per liter. So now I will come to another concept, and that is known as something called anion gap. Now, what we just discussed previously, what happens in various kinds of acidosis and what happens in various kind of alkalosis, don't get overwhelmed, because further down as we go into the discussion, I'll keep taking these things again and again. Okay, so don't get overwhelmed. And if there's something, please do put it on chat. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take it. So now let's, as I was discussing, let's talk about an important concept which is known as anion gap. So what is the anion gap? So when we have metabolic acidosis, this metabolic acidosis, it can be two types. And again, this is based on the etiology of metabolic acidosis, that why is metabolic acidosis occurring? So based on that, there could be an increased anion gap metabolic acidosis, or there could be a normal anion gap acidosis. Okay. So it could be either the anion gap is increased or the anion gap could be normal. So the metabolic acidosis, this is again based on why metabolic acidosis is occurring. So in the body, if you look at the serum or you look at the extracellular fluid, then that is electroneutral. Electroneutral means that there is no charge in the ECF. It is not positive or it is not negative, it is neutral. But you also know that there are cations and there are anions which are present in the ECF. So let's consider that this is your extracellular space. So there are anions and there are cations. So what are the most important cations which are present in the ECF? Somebody wants to mention the most important what are the most important cations which could be present? Anyone? The most important cations are sodium and to a lesser extent potassium. So some people, they don't consider potassium when they are calculating anion gap, but some centers, they consider potassium. Okay, so it is mostly, it is main as sodium, but potassium, so some of the equations you'll have